Hola Community, welcome to Blender Today Live 260. Nice. We are supposed to have Blender 5 already this week. Today, as I promised 2 weeks ago, it was supposed to be Blender 5, the release. However, it was postponed one extra week because we had one extra week more of beta before, like of alpha before the beta, and then during the beta there were so many changes. It's a big release, so yes, one extra week. Next week on the 18th is the planned release for Blender 5, which is crazy to think about it. It's just it's almost here. It's around the corner. Actually, you already try it. And today, I just wanted. Oh, sorry for the blinding. I just realized today when I was looking at the release notes. I'm working on the release notes, by the way. I was just realized, like, you know how it feels like it was yesterday when we were like on Blender 3, and then it feels like every Blender major release is coming close sooner and sooner each time. Well, that is because I just realized today that the release cycle is much shorter, so it makes total sense. Actually, I'm not gonna go too much into this, but 2.8 from 2.8 to 3.0, so like this big chunk, there were 8 releases, right? Back then we had we used to have 4 releases every year. Now we have 3 releases every year. So from 2.8 until 3, there were 8 releases. So 280, 81, 23 on LTS, and then another 4 ones for 2.9. Okay, right? 8 releases. 3.x series was 7 releases. So it was 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 6 LTS. So 7 releases. And the 4th series, it's only 6 releases because that's when we switch the release cycle. So this is only 6, and 5 and 6 and the rest are also going to be 6 releases per major version. So it makes sense that the major releases feel every time closer because yeah, they've been getting closer. 8 releases during the 2.x, 7 releases during 3.x, and 6 releases now every 2 years. So this big release, 5.0, is coming in next week. Tomorrow is the release candidate, so there shouldn't be anything that is not extremely urgent in Blender 5. although some of the changes that we're going to see today we have, well, there have been around 390 commits in total, so actually less than usual, and a total of, I think there should be not that many, only 30 changes that we're going to go through today, because there hasn't been that many because Blender developers are focusing on the big release, right? So yes, there has been many changes, although some of them that I'm going to talk about today, they are in Blender 5. Yes, and they are mainly changes to how the features were implemented in the first place. So okay, without further ado, let's first see the announcements of this week. There's 2 big things that I want to mention. Blender Lab, sorry for blinding, but blender.org doesn't have a dark mode. And on purpose, actually, we don't have a dark mode on purpose. But Blender Lab, it's this project that Ton announced like in 2018, like so long ago. Blender Lab is a safe space for developers to innovate, for designers to create, for the community to come up with crazy ideas, and to not think about, oh, this have to go into a release, right? You make something, you make this, you model this with a new feature to make, I don't know, so to scan object, I don't know, something weird that is not voxels or pixels or vertices, polygons, I don't know. And you have to make it perfect because it has to go into a release. But sometimes you just want to do research, right? So that is partially the focus of this project, the Blender Lab project. There was an announcement blog post also on blender.org. when you can read a bit more about it by it's a document that Francesco wrote also, but the first proposal was from Ton. What does it look like? That was just the page that I just showed you. There are some examples of Blender Lab projects. One of them is the touch and pen, so tablet support. That is a Blender Lab project because it potentially could change the entire Blender UI, right? How do you interact with modal tools? How do you accept and cancel operations? How everything needs to have a way to access without a keyboard. And those things are, yeah, just not in Blender at the moment. So that's a potential USD project, USD authoring. Blend file saved as USD, maybe, why not? AI, ML, yeah, but the good kind of AI, the one that actually, you know, makes your job easier, but it's still your job. Anyways, let's see. That is the Blender Lab. That's a big thing, the announcement. Then this is just the announcement, by the way. Nothing really other than the page that I show you has been defined yet. This is just a place to link to other places to know what this is being worked on. But yeah, let's see. What else? The other thing I wanted to mention is a teaser of we're soon about, actually today was supposed to be the day we would announce it, and we couldn't, we didn't make it. I think on Thursday we're going to announce the end of the year campaign, donation campaign for Blender. Last year was amazing. It was going great, like since we announced the donation campaign for the 2%, and then at some point somebody on YouTube made a viral video about the financial situation of Blender, and that brought much more than the amount that was collected up to that time. So we can only hope that we're gonna get to that point. But this year, Blender has many more developers involved. There's more people involved. The project has grown a lot. So yeah, we can only hope that we're gonna get that many donations again. But yeah, the idea is to start next week, the Thursday or the end of the week before the release, and then go for maybe 1 month until before the end of the year, just to have a donation campaign like Wikipedia does or like other open source projects do. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Let's see what's new in Blender today. Nope, that's today. So, a bunch of changes, but again, there's not that much. Today is supposed to be short and chill, so let's see what is new. In A4 animation, there is one small, tiny change, and if you look at the code, it's really small. It's just a one-liner. It's one extra check on a function that is so low level and is used by so many other things that it has a measurable impact in some scenes. So playback on some shots, for example, and on the rain file, the one that is on blender.org/demo, the animation file. Yeah, this one by Rain, my name is Amy. This one, or a similar one, just a regular animation shot, got up to 2 frames per second faster, which is quite some, I would say. It's not bad. If you were at 22 frames per second, then you would almost be real time if you use a sane frames per second amount. But yeah, the more of course there are, the higher the gain. And in some other tests, it even got more on a synthetic tests, even got more frames per second improvement. So those little things. But what is nice to see is that this is just a one-liner, but it's part of a bigger project to improve the performance of Blender playback, animation playback. So a welcome addition. Let's see. What else? A4 assets. And actually these two changes are those that are in Blender 5.0. These are 2 Blender 5.0 changes. 1, packed objects. So packed, everything that is packed into your file. Like you have an asset that is that is packed, that you share, and Blender will try to reuse data, the old append and reuse, but now it's called packed data. They will now be converted to local objects when dropped. So otherwise, when you would drag and drop them from anywhere in Blender, like from the asset browser into your scene, the packed assets wouldn't be a real object. So they wouldn't have a bounding box, or you wouldn't be able to transform it. And that was a bug. People reported it as a bug. But it's also a change in behavior, and that has been addressed in Blender 5. So it will be part of Blender 5, which is great because Blender 5 is the release where this new concept of packed assets takes place. More. Then the second change is also related to this. Drop material on object when the object data is linked or packed. Because when dropping a material on an object that has linked or packed data, make the material be assigned to the object, not the object data. Because that way the object is local, so you can still assign it to an object without changing the linked data. Let's see. How's the chat going? Curtis, hi, how are you? It's a good idea. The yearly donation push is to give us something to rally around, especially if it feels unique each time. It forces people to look at the donation effort through a new lens. Thank you. Yes, we're still thinking on how to promote this thing. Like, this is the end of the year. The end of the year campaign is always tricky, right? The first one was the 30 years of Blender celebration, right? It's a Blender gift. Then it was the 2%. What happened if Blender would reach 2%? Well, we still haven't reached 2%. There's no, it's not that 2% of the users are donating to Blender. Actually, if you look, sorry for the side tracking, but if you look at the numbers of individual subscribers to the Blender Development Fund, it's gone down. It's 7,300. And if you go to the press release of Blender 4.5, which is every time I do the press release, the announcement press release, I write down at the bottom, thanks to the whoever number of the people are there. So we actually have less people donating to Blender now than when 4.5 came out, which is crazy. Although we are in really weird times, the economy is crazy, the world is crazy. So it's understandable that many people stop donating, stop their contributions. But yeah, it is. On the other hand, the AI bubble keeps growing and growing. So who knows, right? But we do have less donations now than we used to have for 4.5. So let's hope Blender 5, or maybe we reach a ceiling. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's as high as Blender can go. Who knows? Let's see. Let's continue with what's new in Blender. But thanks for the feedback. Maybe I can talk more at the end of the show, just not to sidetrack all the new things that are in Blender. So the other topics that I wanted to cover, they are just minor things. Bunch of cleanups as usual. Blender is getting squeaky clean. Color management, nothing, just for debugging. But in C4 Compositor, we do have a few changes that are, again, related to Blender 5. Crazy, right? Blender 5 is supposed to not change this for a month, but it's still changing. And actually, this one affects me as well, because I have to change the release notes because of this. So there were some essential assets. So, just to go back to, in Blender now, you have, in the compositor, you have these awesome assets that allow you to do, things like vignette, right? Some of them are very simple. So you have the vignette, and this is the built-in asset. However, inside, there are also other built-in assets like rounded square mask. That's built in Blender. It's a node group, but not necessarily something you want to expose in the asset shelf, because not everybody knows what to do with a rounded square mask. Although a rounded square actually is fairly useful. I would say I like rounded corners. So yeah, this one I would probably use. I would like it exposed, but not as an asset, right? It's not the same as an effect. So that's how it's changed. And another change that I don't see here, which is weird, because I was about to mention this change, which is that here we should see the catalogs of all the other effects like this open, because that makes it more discoverable for other users. And in general, I think it's better UI to just to expose this, right? We have the space here, and users also discover that they can have their own catalogs exposed here. So we'll see. I'll report this again, but anyway, this should happen in Blender 5. I'm using 5.1 alpha here. Maybe that's why. But actually this should be the case, because that's the other feature that I wanted to mention, that the enabled asset shelf catalog tabs will be saved in your preferences, which is awesome, because that's a preference, right? That's usually something you want to keep. Although if you ship I don't know if it's built in, if the catalogs are built in or if it's a local library, then maybe you want to share the file with those catalogs open. But no, actually it makes sense for it to be local with your preferences when you switch files and you know which catalog tabs you have open. So this will now be kept as part of your preferences. And this is the change that I mentioned before, that enables some asset shelf catalogs by default, and there is even versioning and everything. So there should be something fishy here. Let's see. That should be the way it works. Core, there is just one change in core. No need for the Mario pipe sound because it's small. It's a new command line option called no window frame, and it only works on Wayland at the moment. But what is interesting is that there is already a pull request, a work in progress pull request for for client side decorations and window decorations. Here there is a quick test. It's a work in progress. Don't think of it as something final, but it is nice to see that soon it should be possible for Blender to have its own, look at this beautiful client-side decorations. So client-side decorations are basically having Blender without, so I'm on Mac OS here, so these three icons here and the name, that could be part of the Blender window. So Blender would be a bit thinner, it wouldn't have this gap here, but it could make it so these buttons are on the side, and then on Windows and other OS it could be on the other side. So yeah, potentially could be very nice. For the time being, this is how it looks. So it's a work in progress, developer art. But you can tell already that is different from the other ones. So far it only works, I think this is only implemented in it's only implemented on, actually there is a Windows version, I think. No, I think there was a task by Harley that is actually adding it also on Windows. Here, Harley, 3 weeks ago, by reconstructing, so it looks the same. Sorry that I'm showing things that are not in main, which I don't usually do. I try to show you everything that is available right now, but it's cool to see, right? This is Harley's implementation, and this is the original one by Windows. So the idea here, of course, is to just show that it can be replaced, could be replaced. You just remove this from the final build. But ideally, this could be smaller buttons to the right or just part of the same window. So you gain a bit more extra space. Super nice. Many apps do that nowadays. Let's continue. And E for Eevee. There is, oh nice, a feature that came back from the death. I completely missed it when it was removed in 4.1. So when Eevee Next came into our lives, it disrupted many things, many areas. One of them was even the look dev in Blender, the general look dev. So look dev that was the name that we gave it in 2.8, and then it was renamed to material preview. So it's this guy, the third sphere, which is basically Eevee. And even more so when you're using Eevee as a render engine, there is not that much of a difference between render and the material preview. The main difference is that the material preview has an option in an overlay option, which is called reference spheres, which allows you to have some spheres here that they're not interactive, unfortunately. I wish you could just click and drag here to rotate the view. But when you rotate the view, when you choose to rotate the view, they will show up down there. The cool thing about this feature that got implemented back from 4.1 is that let's make this material chromatic. The HDRI background is no longer following the camera as you can now set it to be completely fixed. So you see, this is the default. This is how it was working at the moment. You see, the HDRI is always looking at the camera. There is always something like light here at the bottom and something up here, so it's not really realistic, let's say. And now if you disable the world option, you have this. Oh, wait, no, I mixed them up because I used the other one. So if you rotate here, it's now fixed. This is what it was lost in the other version. I just enable the world opacity and remove the blur, and now I can actually see it, that it matches. You look up, you look down, and it's fixed. And if you disable that, it's how it used to be, that it was always rotating with the view, and the reflection, it was always it was hard to judge, right? For some basic reflection was okay, but not for something how you would have it in the scene, in the actual scene, right? Especially if you use some custom HDRIs. This was very missed. I mean, it wouldn't happen if you use your own world, but then you have to set up the world, and yeah, looks so cool. Nice. The option is in the same place as 4.1. Is this world object icon, and if you open 4.1, which I did today, it's the same place. It's just not attached in 4.1. So many fixes. Actually, no, it's just visual fixes. And some of them GPU fixes, mesh validation stuff. Like all of these are not even reported. They're just fixes. And then we have the actual fixes that people reported. And there's so many fixes. But actually today I looked at the amount of high severity issues, and there were not that many compared, like, well, I mean, for this time of there's six high severity issues open only, which is amazing. So good. There's still one crash, I think, yeah, in the sequencer. Another crash with grid pencil while playing animation. Small things, small things, but 6 high severity issues. That's huge. Did you know that you can actually look at those and see the number of high severity issues and triage reports? If you go to metrics.blender.org, you see here the number of high severity issues gone down over time, which is good. It's a good trend. And the new bug reports, actually, it was super high and then went down and came back up. This is August, right? Yeah, summer. People like to report issues or on some. Okay, maybe that was when beta started, and then went back up, and then that's it. Okay. Let's see. Ghost, GPU, geometry nodes. There's a few changes. One is that now baking is supported for lists of primitive values and bundles. Lucas writes here that says add support for baking list items in simulation nodes and bake nodes. In addition to primitive value lists, this also supports lists of bundles, which are not currently accessible from the user level. Okay, nice. Then 3 changes related to geometry node essentials. In this case, there is a pass on descriptions for node group sockets and panels, which this was actually 2 weeks ago. So there has been time to update them and to translate them. That's important, that there shouldn't be last minute changes to labels and texts, because that doesn't give enough time to translators to work and translate the UI for the release candidate. Visual node group cleanup. Nice. So moving several nodes, rerouting some, removal redundant nodes, merging input nodes. That's cool. So the mess is less of a mess now, apparently. It's crazy. This is the previous setup and this is the new one. Oh, nice. A bit more tidy. Although it's a bit nice. It's also nice that it's a bit messy, because it shows that it's human made. There is no AI involved in this. You know, it's just a human downstairs here in Blender HQ in Amsterdam, you know, clicking around, moving, creating reroutes, just like you would do at home. That's how Blender built-in assets are made, which is so cool. Renaming frames, merging input nodes. And the last change, also multiple fixes for high-level node group assets. Some reports, good that people share reports. Fix socket shapes for better insights. Okay. So a number of fixes and tricks to make these built-in assets better. Thank you, Simon. Let's switch to G4 Grease Pencil. And well, this one is not a new feature. It's tests. They are tests. However, I like it because it's a teaser of what's to come. There is a new trim tool rewrite that is coming. It's being still open, still work in progress, but these tests is very important for that. And this is also part of another task that is open to support Bezier on all tools in trim, eraser, and fill. Nice. Awesome. Casey, by the way, Casey is now working now working. It's always been working, but it's a contributor from the community. It's been contributing for years and is now under a Blender Development Fund grant. So your donations from here are going into great people such as Casey that are making this super nice and tight PRs, nice descriptions, and good to see. And tests are so important because this automates the testing every night, and on demand, of course. Every night the Blender developers, well, the Blender buildbot tests everything in Blender, and then if something breaks, it sends a message and a chat message to the chat where all the developers are hanging out. So it's super cool. And the other change, small one, make it possible to use the lattice parenting option in Grease Pencil. The description is: when parenting a Grease Pencil object to lattice, there is a lattice deform option available before Grease Pencil rewrite in 4.3. So there was, not there is. However, the option wasn't working due to the changed modifier types, and this fixes it. So nice. Lattice parenting. Let's see. This is a bug fix actually, but it's good to mention. In masks, the gizmos weren't shown for render or viewer image output. The image editor that allows you to edit masks. Now we'll show the gizmos when possible. And actually this is done by removing a check if it's rendered or not. So apparently at some point this was expected and people wanted to not have gizmos on renders. And now, you know, the world sometimes changes their mind, and this is fixed now. So even though it's just even though sometimes things seem to work in one way, you know, just report a bug. Maybe it wasn't supposed to work that way. So just a hint. A little advice on open source development, or development in general, but open source especially, because there are so many hands involved over decades that it's always good to, you know, hey, this is working this way. You're sure it should be working this way? Such as modeling. This feature was about to make it in Blender 5. I think this fix is for 5 too. Yes, it's in 5. So in Blender 5, during Blender 5, there was or even before, there was a modeling task that one of the points was to make the mirror tool, like the automatic mirror when modeling, work for everything. Right now it's a bit, it only works for a few things. For transform, yes, but not all the operations are supported for mirror. And the goal is to unify that, to make everything support mirror. However, the only change that made it into 5.0 was the hide tool. So you press H to hide a vertex, and it will hide the one on the other side. But all the other tools that were missing, they didn't get implemented in time. So it was a bit inconsistent. It added to the inconsistency. So this has been reverted a week ago or so. So yeah. Yep, sometimes things make it in time, but not as expected. So well, software is organic, right? Keeps evolving. Let's see, in the motion tracker, there is one change to the nuke lens distortion model. This patch extends the nuke distortion model to support anamorphic lenses by introducing new anamorphic coefficients. Wow, nice. David Morman writes, when the new coefficients are set to 0, the model behaves exactly as before. There is a tangential distortion refine option used to solve for these new parameters. There is a new test file even, and nice. Ooh, math, numbers, equations. So cool. I bet Sergey loves to see people interested in the motion tracker after so many years. So thank you, David. Let's see. In the notes in general, there is one usability change. You know, since this is Blender 5 or one version ago or so, when a node, or even when something is muted, when an input socket is disabled because maybe it doesn't have any effect, the label disabled will be half transparent, like it's usual in Blender, like 50% transparency, but also the color in that socket also would be transparent, which can be confusing because this is how it used to look. So when the label was disabled, the color was also disabled, but it looked like a different color. So yeah, now not anymore. Now only the label will be disabled and the color will be the actual color. Small things, but you never think about these small things, right? You just disable the whole thing. It's good to see. Then two other changes related to Node Wrangler. One, reload images defined in the modifier interface. So there was a commit recently that added the reload for images that I showed a couple of weeks ago, and that only worked for the images in the node tree setup, but not in the modifier interface. So this change by Damian makes it work also for the modifiers. And Andrea Lanaro added a new feature to Node Wrangler, center nodes. let's see what is this. Actually, I haven't seen this one. So there is a new option called center nodes, which follows the same design of using icons that are not meant for this. But let's see how it works. So what does it do? Center nodes. Okay. Positions them where? In the center of the world? I guess you move them to the center of the world. Let's see. Problem. There's no quick and easy UI element to help organize modes or around the center of the node editor. Well, yes, that's a good point. And there were 2 right-click select posts about it. Yes. Yeah. And the line in the center. Yes, I actually had a patch. I think did I write here? I had a patch for this to make this line over here. But it got some rejection. And because basically Blender should make it automatic for you. Shouldn't have like a center. It's just always center your node setups. But until then, we could have a line in the center. I think it wouldn't harm. We used to have a line, I think, back in before we had the dot interface, I think maybe 2.8, and it was removed. So maybe we could bring it back. Then, or maybe a crosshair or something in the center. Anyway, now you can center your nodes. Cool. In the node wrangler. Then this one is kind of huge for Mac people, for Apple devices. OpenEXR implement metal graphics binding, which partially or preliminary adds support for VR on macOS. So far, it can only be tested, I think, during the using the Meta XR simulator. Version 78.1 at the moment of writing. It's very recent, but yeah, it adds OpenXR support for macOS. You have to build it. You have to build Blender with OpenXR. I don't know if this is coming in the builds. I should have asked Jonas. Jonas is also now here is working at the HQ for a month after the conference. So we should see more of him soon, and this is awesome. I actually didn't know about this. I will ask him if the builds from Buildbot do they have this already running or not? And this is of course for Blender main, so 5.1. Let's see. Then refactors, subdivision, templates. Yeah, template. These 2 changes are in Blender 5.0. I know, more illegal changes. The storyboarding template has a few changes. So it used to, so you open Blender, you go to storyboarding. The storyboarding template used to have a 2D canvas, full screen canvas, which is not really useful when you're doing this kind of work, the storyboarding. Although it is useful to have a video editing workspace. So this is new, this got added. So you go to video editing, you have a full screen of your scene and the settings of your shot, the output shot. And I thought I had the output tab enabled. Anyways, it should be the output because otherwise there was no way in the storyboarding template to easily see the output settings of your edit scene, of the scene that you have here. You have to go out of a shot to have, like, I don't know, let's say I want to have a square video 10 in 1024, and then you go somewhere else and it will show you the output settings for this shot, not for the edit shot. So having the breadcrumbs here helps a bit to know which one you're in. You can also see it up here as usual. But yeah, it is much better if you have a workspace that has the edit shot pinned. So you always know, okay, this is where I am, what I'm exporting. Because you can also export from here, render sequence animation, and it will render the whole animation, the video of your scene, of the sequence, but you wouldn't know which settings you would use. So this could actually, well, no, this will just re-render everything, but it could have an option to customize the settings, and it will maybe open a dialog. Nah, you want it to be fast, right? And the other change is to the startup template, the one by default in Blender. And this is just a small change that you shouldn't notice actually. So when you open Blender General, you shouldn't notice it basically, because it would get rid of double editors. Like when you go to compositing, here there used to be a timeline and a dope sheet, and both with the timeline and with the double chin playback controls. So that has been removed, and a few other changes in the animation. And now it only has the dope sheet with the playback control instead of having the collapsed timeline. And that's pretty much it, actually, not much more. Just a few resizing of some editors. I think in geometry nodes, this is slightly bigger. We still have the timeline, but this is slightly bigger. In the compositor also, the dope sheet used to be like half of the screen, which doesn't make any sense. So now it's much smaller, and a few other changes like that. And last but not least, okay, so I think this this feature that I'm about to show you, this is we're gonna be talking about the user interface. This change that I'm about to show you is to be the biggest change in terms of UI and functionality that were added to 5.0 after beta, that were not supposed to be in Blender 5. It was supposed to be Blender 5.1, although I think it should have been done much earlier, which is a change to tree views. What is a tree view? A tree view is like a UI list, which is like a list, like the list of shape keys. The list of shape keys in Blender 4.5, it was just a regular list. So you have two types of lists in Blender, right? You have something like vertex groups. You have this list, right, with search. Great, amazing. Well, this is one kind of list, and over time the idea is to replace this list with the new ones, with the one that shape keys have now, which support things like drag and drop, multi-select, multi-operation, so you can actually delete or apply things to multiple objects. And visually they look the same. It's on purpose that they look the same, but they are different. And one of the things that made it very, very different was that until some days ago, this kind of list, shape keys that have so many items potentially, didn't have filtering, and now it does. Actually, there is a difference. Now this one shows the icon and this one didn't show the icon. Crazy. So yeah, now you can actually just type to search. You can search here. So one thing that is missing here that I think we should have is the placeholder text, and it should say search like here. And we're missing the invert, and we're missing the sorting buttons. So they're still not part in, yeah, they're not the same, but ideally they will. And also this needs to be accessible via Python, which is not yet. So yeah, it's coming together. And the good thing is this change applies to every tree view. So if you have, say, an armature, and you have bone collections, which is also another thing another feature that you can add bone collections, and you can have nested bone collections. This is another feature that is not possible in the old system, and now you can search as well. So there is also which one other? Light linking. Light linking uses the same kind of lists. So if we go to visibility, no, shading, light linking, new. So you have your light linking objects. It should be in the light object. There you go. This also now supports search. So that's what I mean with this small change. Super late into the game, like a week ago, like a few days ago. It's a feature that you will see and it will make your life easier if you have too many objects in light linking, too many bone collections, too many, I don't know, you name it, anything. What else uses a tree view? I think the asset shelf, I don't know if it's exposed, but the asset shelf uses a tree view inside, and that's it. Okay, let's see. Tree list grouping, please. Someone asks. That actually I just show you. That is possible with, and so far it's limited to some lists, so like armatures. So you have here, you have bone collections, you can have nested bone collections. So the system supports it, it's just not implemented yet in other places. But the idea is that everything should have some kind of group. The problem is once you put them into groups, what do you do? How do you access that? Is that Python? How do you access in Python that, right? Like do you break every existing script ever, like rig? I don't know. How do you access that? Vertex groups, right? It's easy to access vertex group via Python, but if you have nested groups, how do you access them? Yeah, it's a big thing. But the UI is ready, so that's a good thing. We're almost there. Next, small one by Harley. This makes it possible to resize or move collapse in an area operator. So when you move an area from one place to another and you hold control, you can swap these editors. You can swap them. The problem was that control, you had to press it after and not before of the operation, and now you can. So a small thing. Another small thing. Another fix of a feature that was implemented in Blender 5 is that click to accept or move mouse to leave. It's hard to express. So basically in Blender 5, old menus, if you move your mouse away and just wiggle it and the menu doesn't go away. That's a new feature in Blender 5. It's a preference. It's in the user preferences, menus, close menu on leave. So this brings back the old behavior. However, there are a few exceptions to this. So the base, like in this case, the base color opens a color picker. This color picker, if I scroll, it used to change this, which makes sense actually, because if you hold control and scroll above a color picker, it will change the value, right? So we have red, so it changes the value. So it makes sense to do that. However, it will get on the way, because if you were just tweaking something and then scroll away, it would change the color. So it was very annoying. So it's a fix and a feature. Another fix is that the IME in the IME, what's the standard? I always forget. Independent medical examination. No, computer. Keyboard. Input method editor. This one that allows you, especially for people who use multiple languages in the same computer, or if I have like your UI in Chinese and you want to input English text, for example, then you can with this type of input method editors that come with the operating system. However, this was also being triggered for numerical inputs, and luckily everyone in the world, almost everyone in the world, I guess, agreed to have the same numbers. Imagine if we would have American numbers and rest of the world numbers, because probably would go that way. Luckily we don't have that issue, but now the IME keyboard is not going to show up on numerical inputs. You know what's going to show up? Better interactions when drag and dropping objects. For example, from the asset shelf, you drag and drop an object, it will display better options in the status bar, and they would also be highlighted when you press. So you can adjust things like snapping, define base, depth, fix aspect, and so on. Two other quality of life improvements, very small ones. The make local button was always enabled, even like it was always accessible, even though sometimes it didn't work. It wasn't expected to work. That's the case when, for example, when you want to link or a packed material assigned to a linked or packed object data. So if you have something that is packed and the data is not accessible, you can't assign a material to that. And if you could, then you couldn't make it local because it's a... Anyway, quality of life, the buttons will be gray out if it doesn't work. Long story short, don't worry. Blender will be a bit smarter and telling you when something makes sense or not. And also, when entering edit mode of linked or packed assets, Blender will now tell you other than just unable to execute. It used to be very negative. Unable to execute edit mode, error changing modes. And now it actually tells you, hey, this data block is packed and it's not editable. So you can use make local to make it editable. And the same when linked. So good to see. Quality of life. And the last but not least is video sequence editor. There is a new modifier in town called pitch modifier. Allows you to shift the pitch of a sound strip or, well, anything really with sound. So I don't know how I'm gonna show you this working. I think there is a video, but I don't know if it makes sense to... No, it doesn't sound much. Trust me, it's there. It's a pitch modifier that allows you to set the semitone, sense ratio, and the quality of pitch. So this comes from the Outer Space library, I believe, and should be pretty straightforward, something that is seen in other places, but I like that it's not too long ago that we've seen other improvements in the other modifiers. So having this momentum maybe will bring more modifiers to the video sequence editor, like a compressor. That would be amazing. So good to see these contributions. Thank you, Golden Dragon. And that's it. That is every change for this week in less than an hour. Nice. Well, we didn't get that many changes, but yes. Good to see. What else? Let's see if there is any... How are you? How's everyone in the chat? Let's see if there is any question in the thread that I didn't do. Blender Lab here. Let's see. There are 6 comments, and Pablo, the embeds aren't working. Oh no. Well, let me first paste the edit your post. Oh, I'm not logged in. So let's see. What did I do? Well, I'm gonna edit it afterwards. Where are we? I keep here. I work with multiple desktops, and when I'm not live streaming, it's easy to keep track of things. But when I'm live streaming, I always forget which one. So I'm in this place. Let's see. Where was it? Blender today. I will edit it later, but let's see this full screen. Hola Pablo, I hope you are well. Thank you, I hope you too. I have a question on the topic of UX. Has there been any thought of making attribute changes affect all the selected objects by default instead of having to awkwardly hold Alt? Yes, this question actually comes up every now and then, every few episodes, and the answer is yes, that would be the desired behavior, because that's how it usually is in every other application. However, not every setting in Blender supports this behavior, so it would be very inconsistent to have that on by default, because it would work only sometimes, not always. So I think it takes courage. Maybe we should just switch where in the code it is to just flip that and see how bad it is, I would say. Because I think the argument is a bit outdated. Maybe it's from, I don't know, 2.8, before 2.8, that it's a bit outdated. I think many more features work, and maybe we should just give it a try. But it's not under anyone's radar, right? It's like very core feature. I don't know which module should work on it. Like, is it UI? Is it yeah, it's hard. Also, there should be a better, I think, when you select multiple objects, like if I have this object, right, that have this location, and then I have this object that has another location. When I select both here, what do I see? I see the active item, but it's, if I change a value, right, I change it to the active object. So that's one of the big issues. Here I should see something else. Maybe I should see like a line, or like, what do you see? You know what I mean? Because the feature of holding Alt is not yet implemented by default. So when I modify one value, I'm changing the active object, which is fine because this is the value of the active object and this is the other active object. Cool. Now, if I change a value and I'm affecting both, so Alt, then you see it becomes blue. Then it means that when I select both, I should also see both values. Just so it's a bit more intuitive. And that part is missing. Andre Kling says, hello Pablo, good afternoon. Is there an easy way to get a world node transform in geometry nodes? Sometimes it would be easy to work with global transform data. So being able to reference the world could be helpful in these cases. Perhaps it's already possible, I'm just lack of node foo. I'm not the most node fooist ever, but if anything global to me sounds like it could be a custom property from the scene, right? And that I just use for both the world transform and geometry nodes world transforms. I don't think you can access world things from geometry nodes yet, because eventually the world will be replaced by a light type dome or something similar like other software has. Until then, I think maybe drivers are your like custom properties, and use drivers to access that. Let's see. Veriesa, hi Pablo, I hope you're doing well. I hope you too. Regarding the innovations in the labs, have you heard anything about the Material X rework proposal for the cycle shader nodes? Also, what will happen to this Q&A after the community pages is continued? Good question. It would be great to eventually be able to more easily exchange material definitions and share small procedural trees within open pipelines, which is also supported by the USD efforts. I also think it would be awesome. I haven't heard anything new about the Material X rework. I think the people involved in that project are still working on it. They still want to work on it. I haven't seen, as in, abandon it. But it's definitely part of the USD, kind of related to the USD efforts. Hi Pablo, I hope you're doing well. I have a small question. Oh wait, sorry. When these kind of things, if you know where the task is, if you find the task, it's not too bad if no one has replied to it in 1 year, to ask what's the status. Maybe the developers forgot to update the task, or maybe they made a new task and didn't link to the new task. So you can always ask, and maybe even go to the chat of the module and ask there. Just ask. You don't need to make a lot of noise. So if you go to the Blender modules, so the modules page, there's no list of, the module list. And if you go to cycles, render and cycles, then you will find the link to the chat. And once there, you can say, hey, I was just wondering, this task is still alive. If you don't want to ask in the channel. Let's see. I hope you're doing well. I have a small question about Blender development. Last year, the team focused, correct me if I'm wrong, on polishing many features, fixing bugs, and improving the overall performance of the software. I'm curious about the team's focus for this year. If you could tell us a little about that, it would be great. Thank you, as always. Actually, what you just mentioned is the winter of quality. So most developers that are working full-time for Blender are in the northern hemisphere, here in Amsterdam and other places in Europe or the US. So northern hemisphere, which means that winter is coming, and that is a time where it's cold outside, gets dark very early. It's a great time to just work and focus on things that you couldn't work throughout the year. Blender 5.0 just came out, so it's a good moment to, okay, let's chill and let's go through the huge list of bug reports or those changes that are maybe bits of performance that you can gain here and there. And last year was very successful, actually. That was the Winter of Quality project 2024. You can actually find on the code blog, I believe, there is a document on the, let's see if I search for Winter of Quality 2025. So that was 2023, 25. So this thing, it's coming back in the shape of another Winter of Quality, basically. But yeah, except for Campbell, who is in Australia, and maybe others in South America and in south of Africa, they will, not relate to the Winter of Quality, but it's also summer, you know, it's also time to bug fix. But yeah, it's coming. Thanks for asking. Nanabat says, Oi Pablo, I'm super curious about labs. My planned features aren't very applicable. Probably. My stuff now is just some UI and swapping light bounce formulas. Playing with lenses, simulations, and nebulas. Light transport and volumes are my home field, how I got into Blender. Any sneak peeks for those too? Light transport and volumes are my whole... No. As in, I don't think any sneak peek that... I wouldn't have any sneak peek that hasn't been published yet. So just keep an eye on the regular places. But again, some of the projects, as you can see, they are planned, they're in progress, or they are still looking for funding. If you go to blender.org/lab, there are like this one light transport is planned, so planned, and USE and MCP server for the AI and stuff requires funding, so it needs people to pay for it, basically. and stakeholders, so people who are going to be basically linked to the project and keeping an eye on it and testing and committed, let's say. I had to take a small hiatus, says no, not bad. Any other updates about geometry nodes, physics, sims development that I have missed in the last month? I know it's bug fix time. That's never stopped people from doing UI or other exploration before. You're a ground zero for that, what is being talked about offline. I want the deets. Promise I won't gossip much. Well, physics are coming, just as winter. Simulations too. There is a branch by Lucas Stone on as a patch also on rigid bodies physics. So now that closures, bundles, they're all the thing now all across Blender. I think it's a matter of time. But there's a branch already. Just search for Lucas Tonne in the PRs. Hello, mate. Two short things, says Mr. Kleiner. Words cannot express how much I hope Blender developers will keep maintaining the 2.79 keyboard layout in the future. Right-click select, no pie menus, and so on. You get the point. Let's see. Words cannot express how much I hope Blender devs would help maintaining. So my reply here is that you don't need to be a Blender developer to maintain the 2.79 keyboard. A keyboard if you look at the when you save a keyboard, the keymap file, it's just Python. It's just a list of Python. It says, okay, this is the operator, and this is the keys that I'm gonna use. So that is a great candidate for the community to maintain it, to take the burden out of developers, because these are the kind of things that if it gets on the way of development, if there are many bug reports, but no one really fixing them or like bother to even test this before a release, yeah, it gets abandoned. So this is a great candidate for the community. However, one of the projects for Blender, I'm not gonna say a release because I don't even know which release, but one of the projects that I want to push for 2026 is the keymap editor, including an easier way to share these keymap editors, including potentially having keymap as assets in an online extension, basically. So maybe not an asset, but maybe an extension. So something that you can install just like you install a add-on, a theme, a keymap. And then it should be easier to maintain, to see, to see if there is actually people using it still. And yeah. But anyway, right-click select's not going anywhere, by the way. So it's still the best select. So I'm talking about the actual right mouse button select, not the website. Second, the BlenderToday situations. I don't know about other people, but I'm not digging through all this obscure Git commit rubbish myself. For the love of Sigmar, please keep doing BlenderToday and do it more. Do it more? What is it? Do it more. Every other week. I'm happy that I'm maintaining it though, by the way. Even though I should be working now on the release notes and we have a new release next week. And we're super busy with this because Blender keeps changing. I still like to do these live streams and I'm going to continue doing it. I don't know what do you mean by doing it more. I wish we could make the most of this. Like I wish we could have hire someone to make maybe short clips of this, me yapping for 2 hours, but then make it short, you know, sometimes just, okay, these are the 3 Eevee features this week, bam, bam, bam. And then to reach more people, to show that there are news every other week and 2 hours worth of news and Q&A. Yeah, but we don't have yet. We are looking for, by the way, to hire someone community related, yeah, clipper they call it, to make clips, but also to tweet and Mastodon and Blue Sky and so many things these days. Let's see. I just looked at the chat and somebody asked, Blender, are you the owner of Blender? Hi Kewis. I am not the owner of Blender. You are the owner of Blender. Do you know that? Because Blender is your own 3D software. Blender is open source, so every line of code belongs to you and to everyone seeing this. Actually, you can go to Blender, you can see the README, or you can look at the license actually and see that Blender belongs to everyone, including you. So that's why when we say your own 3D software, and we even had a t-shirt back then that here in the back, it said your own 3D software, we mean it, it's yours. Take care of it. And the last comment, 36 seconds ago when I refreshed the page, was by Jonas Echner. Hey Pablo, in Blender 5, when I have, is this a bug report? When I have audio in a sequence, press play and then click to navigate a timeline, like -100, while the timeline is still running, the audio will continue to play if the time did not change. It is a bug? Definitely a bug. It shouldn't. If you change frame, the audio should change too. Yes, please report it. I found several things in 5.0 that I don't know if it's a bug or a subjective dislike. Timeline so thick it's hiding a keyframe. who can tell me if and where and how to report this. If you mean that the line, this line is so thick that it's hiding keyframes, that's a bug. It has been reported and it should be addressed. Well, depends. Not really. This is an issue though, because of how big the keyframes are, right? If you say something is one frame and you want to have shadows on the side so it doesn't, so it's always readable, then you have one line and then 1 pixel on each side. If you want to make it readable, that one line has to be at least 2 pixels. The moment you make it 2 pixels, it's not centered anymore, because if you're in this frame and you add a pixel to this side, then you're offset. If you add a pixel to this side, then you're offset here. So you have to add 3 pixels. You have 1 in the middle, 2. So your blue line becomes 3 lines plus the shadows. So it's tricky. I don't know how we should solve this. Either we make it again one line, thin line, no shadows, or make the keyframes draw on top, like a small version of the keyframe. I don't know. So yeah, tricky. But I like that you brought it up. Any new comments? Yes, I just refreshed the page. There is a few. 2 small questions. Presidian. I'm just going through it because it, yeah. Otherwise, I don't want to leave them hanging. Hope you're doing well. And look at this gentleman. Bronze Development Fund supporter and Blender Studio subscriber. Super excited for Blender 5. I'm glad it's getting some extra time to iron out some bugs. I got 2 small questions. 1, I'm wondering if there are release notes or some kind of changelog for some of the essential Blender add-ons that might have gotten fixes and updates for 5.0, especially Rigify or Node Wrangler. Is there a unified page like the 5.0 release notes where you can find info? Yes, and those are in the regular release notes. So there used to be a dedicated add-ons page, but now these add-ons are built in. So if there is anything related to nodes, it will be in the node editor, Grease Pencil. It should be in here. It's unified. So Rigify, for example, should be in animation and rigging. So Rigify, oh, there's 2 Rigify updates here. Where is it? Rigify is mentioned twice. Rigify. Where is it? Ah, on the side. Wow. So there is a mention of Rigify somewhere here, but it's not being highlighted. So I don't know. Phantom Rigify. But it should be unified. That's long story short. I'm wondering if there are some plans regarding Grease Pencil to make it work a bit better with the real-world scaling. Right now, using shortcuts to change brush becomes very finicky when using millimeter scales, and the fill guides are huge. I've reported the guide issue, but I'm wondering if there are any design goals when it comes to more small-scale Grease Pencil. Thanks to the entire Blender community, Blender 5 is going to be fantastic. Plans regarding Grease Pencil to make it work better with real-world scaling. The brush size becomes very finicky when using millimeter scales. So what is it, like precision? As in, I think you can report this as a bug, because that will bring attention to the issue, and maybe it doesn't count as a bug, maybe it's expected behavior, but it's still something like, okay, we need to refactor this, or I think you should report this as a bug, because it is a bug. Hi Pablo, I want to know updates about new NPR and multi-stage composition. No updates regarding any of them, I think, for the time being, but NPR is still high in the agenda. Hello Pablo, good afternoon. The last Blender sequencer got some good updates. Are there any new development going on in video sequencer which are exciting and interesting to see? Yes, actually the list of video sequence editor changes, potential changes for 2026 has been posted, and it's a proposal, it's not set in stone, but But yeah, these are some of the changes that are planned, like GPU support for the compositor, exposing settings. Yeah, search for it. It's on DevTalk, Video Sequence Editor Roadmap. And the last question, again by Andre Kling. Oh no, actually this one has one vote. That's why I want to present it first. So that is all for this week. I'm glad we made it to the end, and I still have a voice, and I still have mate. So I hope you are getting prepared for Blender 5. If you have add-ons or themes, or please test them. The themes are probably gonna break, but if you have ones in your, you probably got a message. If you have a theme in the extension platform, you should have gotten an email or a notification in the extension platform with some instructions on how to update your themes to the latest. You can also, if you have your theme not in the extension platform, you can also use that tool. It's in the release notes of Blender 5. There is a page called Migration where you can see how to update your theme to the newer Blender 5. For add-ons, there is a page for Python API, and that's it. Go make some noise about Blender 5. Prepare for the donation campaign. If you're already donating, I know it's annoying when you donate and they all ask you for donation, like on YouTube when they ask you to subscribe and you're already subscribed, and yeah, it gets annoying. But you know, once a year, it's this donation campaign that will help to keep Blender free, and it's always gonna be free anyway, but alive, because the freedom is not gonna go away, but the aliveness of a project is in danger when it doesn't have enough funds to be as active and continue working as it used to, as it in the past. Blender has grown so much in the last few years, especially after COVID, after 2019. You've seen the explosion in usage and donations too, but we want to keep growing, right? You want to keep hiring people. Not long ago, there was a new developer related to render, to Eevee, hired again. Then we have Jonas also joining, now bringing XR for Mac, and iPad also, he's going to be working on that. Tablet in general, also Android. Wacom is joining forces to work on the tablet side of things for Android. So there are good big projects coming up, and if you can spare maybe $5, 5 for 5, there you go. Blender 5, $5. Not now, wait until the donation campaign, so it feels like motivation, like a motivation for others. But that's it. Maybe that would be a good angle. Would that be a good angle, or is it just because I'm tired? 5 for 5, and the 5 for 5. Yeah. And of course, this is only for people who can afford, who is either making a living with Blender, or you're getting something back from Blender. Maybe it's a hobby and then just have fun with it, and you can afford it, then yes. But if you can't afford it, just it's all right. Maybe share the news. Maybe share Blender. Maybe tell more people about Blender. That's it. That's it. Let's see. 5 for 5, the new campaign. I'm looking at the chat here. Thanks everyone, and I will. Oh, by the way, wait. No. Let's not go, because Harry Blend is here. Harry Blends. And I have the tabs here open. I forgot. Look at this. I didn't open this. Now I have them open because I wanted to give a shout out to Harry Blends for the new modifiers of Blender 5.0 video, which you should check out. I'm going to share with you. After you're done with that video, you should also check out this channel, Mumu Mundo, for grease pencil updates. This artist made like everything that is new in Blender 5 for grease pencil, like all these changes. Like, this is awesome. Shows Blender 5. It's a 5-minute video about grease pencil changes in Blender 5. It's amazing. And like motion blur, I completely forgot that we have motion blur in grease pencil. It's huge. And the last one I wanted to give also a shout out is another one you probably know already, 3D, Christopher Tyler. Because a few weeks ago, he made this video about the rendering changes in Blender 5, and then 2 points of clarification. And then yesterday, 2 days ago, another point of clarification, because people are still discussing the changes in the in Blender color space and handling. And yes, so thanks for the effort. And I know it's hard. Color spaces are strange and weird. So let's see some love for these amazing Blender content creators and YouTubers that keep Blender and the community alive, and reminded how awesome the work the developers and the community is doing. So I guess I better finish the 5.0 release video now. It's a you don't have to, but you know, would be nice to have. Anyways, again, thanks everyone for tuning in. I had a great company. I hope I was a good company for you as well. Let's meet again in 2 weeks' time. That will be when? That is the 25th of the 25th of November, which is, wow, the last, yeah, then we start December. But by then, 5.1 will be a full speed. There is really not much more to 5.0, unless there is a 5.0.1. But let's not talk about that. Let's not think even about that. Let's hang out, have fun, and make some real art. No AI slop, with real software by real people. Really free. Free forever. I've seen other software going free, but not open source, and they call it free forever. Don't trust that. Affinity. Free forever is when it's open source. That's the only free forever that it exists. So with that, I will leave you till the next time. Bye bye. Thanks everyone. See you next time. Bye. Gracias. Dankjewel. Dankeschön. Arigato. Tak. Obrigado.